Emma, I'll be honest, I'm gripped by this story. It totally fascinates me. I love a bit of intrigue and mystery. And to be perfectly honest, it had me at man emerges from the sea, quoting Shakespeare. It all began in September, didn't it? In Roselle Bay, if that's how you pronounce it. Just describe to me a bit what Roselle Bay is like.
Yes, that's right. Roselle Bay, it's a beautiful bay on the northeast coast of Jersey. A stunning beach, a really scenic location. It's very popular with tourists. But yeah, that day there were not just tourists in the water, there was also this man who claims to have swum all the way from France. So a bit of a sight and a bit of a shock to people there when we found out about his story and what he was claiming.
So who found him exactly? And, and what did they do when they came across him?
So as far as we're aware, so he was found screaming for help in the bay. He claims to have swum all the way from France, and a couple of local people heard him and helped him ashore, and he was standing there in his diving gear. So he was dressed in diving gear. He had a little bag with him with some money in it, a pair of goggles, and at this point he said, look, you've got to help me. I'm actually British, but I don't have any documentation, so I've had to swim here from France. Just help me get home again. So they said, oh, come in, and I think there was a lady who brought him into her house, made him a cup of tea, obviously let the authorities know, there's a man here, he needs a bit of help. They came over and basically they arrested him and charged him with illegal entry because he claims that he's a British citizen, but there is absolutely no evidence of this. But what he's saying, I'm from the UK, I haven't got the documentation, but what I can do for you is I can quote Shakespeare. So when they were questioning him, during the questioning, he started quoting Shakespeare to try and validate his claim of being British.
Any idea what play he chose of Shakespeare?
We don't know, but he also quoted some lines from Winston Churchill's diaries, apparently.
Okay.
So it was Shakespeare and a bit of political history as well. But the police are adamant that he is not a British citizen. They charged him. There was a court process and he is now in jail.
Now, we haven't actually said his name. His name is David Law. Is that right?
David Law, which there's a bit of an irony to that when you consider that he is now
There are just too many bits of this story that are tantalising, aren't there, really?
It was really bizarre as a case to cover. I mean, we've never had a case like this in the Channel Islands, and I think it's kind of been very baffling for the authorities and how to deal with this, because they can't verify his claims. He can't verify his claims. He won't give up this claim of being British. He won't be able to claim asylum unless he does that. They've got nowhere to deport him. No one has a clue what to do with this man. So he's effectively stateless in Jersey's prison, having been charged, sentenced with illegal entry. He's due for release in September, but what they're going to do with him, nobody knows.
You'll answer this maybe with your own opinion, or it might be coming from police or lawyers or whatever, but how plausible is his story?
Well, as far as the police are concerned, it's not plausible at all, because there is no record of him. There's no documentation whatsoever. I mean, I think one of the theories... I mean, also, it would be incredibly difficult to swim all the way from France to Jersey. That is one hell of a stretch of water. Being in the water for 13 hours on his own, being able to navigate all the way to Jersey, how likely is that? So there is a theory, perhaps he boarded a boat and then jumped just before he got to Jersey and then swam into the bay. But the authorities, they say, just based on the conversations they've had with him, it just doesn't make sense. I know that the UK Home Office have been involved. The authorities here have done a lot of digging, but they just cannot find any evidence. So they obviously had enough evidence to be able to charge him with illegal entry and to be able to sentence him. There was a court case. It's gone through the legal process. But it's that hard evidence. He continues to insist that he's British. So they really don't know what to do.
I mean, Emma, you may or may not know the answer to this question, but does he have an accent that implies he's from somewhere else, or?
So I've been told he does have an accent, but this is the weird thing. So whenever he's been interviewed, he's been very difficult. They've not really been able to get much out of him. He's not given much away. So part of the problem in verifying his identity is he's not been working with them. They know he's not a British citizen. That's what they're saying. They are utterly convinced that's why he's in jail. But it's because he maintains it. It's because he continues to insist it. And he can't claim asylum unless he renounces that claim. So this is it. They don't know where to deport him to. They can't. Part of it, they don't don't think he's British, but they don't know what he is. They don't know his true identity. They don't know where to deport him to. So that's why there's this dilemma.
I mean, we're making light of it and we are laughing about it because it's so interesting. But it's incredibly complex, isn't it, actually, for the authorities? Has he ever given any clue, David Law, if indeed that is his real name, or any reason why he did this swim from France, if indeed he did, which sounds quite rather unlikely?
I think there were a couple of kind of personal reasons, and he was saying, I just needed to get back to Britain. I just needed to get back to my country. I wanted to get away from where I was. That I was in a situation where I couldn't stand it anymore. But we don't know the full extent of his background. We don't know his background, and this is the thing. He is just a guy who came ashore claiming to be British, hasn't revealed too much about his backstory, but it could be that there is an incredibly tragic case behind this. He is now in prison. He was sentenced to 15 months last year. The issue with keeping him in prison, keeping him detained, is that if they do that without a plan for deporting him, they could actually be in breach of Article 5 of the European Convention of Human Rights. So there's a real serious side to this, but that's all a question for Jersey's law department. And I know that they are having conversations with Jersey's Attorney General, who kind of helps decide, how to kind of navigate these sorts of legal challenges. But it's a really difficult one. And the other thing is, obviously, they can't just let him out because he can't work. He can't live in Jersey because there's no documentation. We don't know his identity. So there's issues detaining him. There's issues just releasing him because you can't just let someone go out on the streets. But they don't know what to do with him. I mean, the one thing he could do is claim asylum. That's what a lot of people do. But he cannot claim asylum if he claims he's already a British citizen.
So he has to admit that he is not British to be able to go on that pathway.
Basically, yeah, that's my understanding from all the lawyers connected to this case that we've spoken to. But what will be interesting is how Jersey responds to this, because there is a kind of wider context here, because a lot of people have said over the years that they fear the Channel Islands could be used as a backdoor into Britain. So the authorities here know that they have to stand firm. They have to kind of be really robust to try and kind of stop that from ever being a possibility.
How real is that kind of concern out in Jersey?
Basically, if you go from the Channel Islands to Britain, if you get a flight from Jersey Airport to Heathrow, you can just go straight through. You don't actually have to go through passport control because it's part of what's known as the common travel area. So there has been concern, I know, particularly from a lot of people in the Conservative Party. We did an interview not so long ago with the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, about this, who was worried that there were French tourists who could potentially get on a flight to London, not showing their passport, because actually to go from France to Jersey as a French person just on a day trip, you only have to show ID, French official ID, but you don't have to show a passport, which obviously proves your citizenship. So there have been concerns about this, but it's interesting. I mean, we don't get cases of, small boats washing up. We don't see that in the Channel Islands. But there has been talk about, could that potentially happen one day? But that's why it's up to the authorities in the Channel Islands to stand firm on these sorts of cases and to make sure that doesn't happen.
Have you got any steer at all what David Law wants? Does he want to stay in Jersey? Does he want to come to the UK? Has there been any indication?
Honestly, it's been very difficult for us to get information out of David Law. I mean, I know that, people have tried to communicate with him sort of via letter. It's very different in Jersey, sort of getting access to prisoners and all that kind of stuff. So I've not spoken to him, but I can imagine it's a very difficult situation. I mean, this is a man who, if his claims are true, we're suggesting he swam all the way 13 miles, France to Jersey. He then went through a court case. He's now in prison. What kind of life is that? So I have no idea what would be running through this man's mind. But I think, as far as the police are concerned, this is a really, really serious matter, and it is this is genuinely the first time that they've been confronted with a challenge like this, because they honestly don't know what to do, and it's a really, really difficult one to try and navigate.
Thank you very much, Emma. Well, we shall see come September what happens to David Law. Thank you, Emma. Thank you. And to hear what twists and turns this story takes next, keep an eye on itv.com/news. Until our next quick briefing, thanks for joining us.